Greetings everyone, my name is Etterville, and welcome back to my Let's Play of Mega Man Maker. During the last part, I covered 5 viewer-submitted levels, so in this part, I'll be covering all 5 levels that are part of the Book 2 series of stages designed by Game Master Man. Starting up with this one, Book 2 Chapter 1 Black Time, with 8 plays and a score of 1. As always, if you want one of your levels to be featured in a future part like this one, please leave both the level name and level ID either in the comment section below or direct message me on Twitter. Also, as always, the full disclaimer of this entire LP series is linked in the description below. Also in the description are the timestamps for all the levels I cover in these parts, so if you want to check if your level is covered, expand the description. As the number of levels in this series is only 5, this episode may end up being shorter than the previous few ones. I wish this stage actually had a background that wasn't completely black. It just feels kinda bland. Then again, I guess that's why this stage is called Black Time. That wasn't too bad. I just wish there was another large weapon capsule. So that was Chapter 1. Pretty simple and straightforward. Nothing more to say about this stage, it just existed. And honestly, it was below par. Second up is Book 2 Chapter 2 Hard Time, with 7 plays and a score of 1. Starting off immediately after the previous chapter, and now I have access to the time slow, as I defeated Time Man in the previous level. It wasn't the best idea to use the needle cannon there. Thank you, RNG. The time slow is wonderful in this level. Probably the next boss's weakness is the atomic fire. There are several parts of this stage where it seems almost mandatory to use a time slow, like that previous room. Sadly, out of all the special weapons I currently have in my arsenal, the needle cannon is the least useful one. Every special weapon and even the Mega Buster are better. The only exception to this rule will probably be boss weaknesses. And Hardman was super susceptible to the time slow, so this boss fight was a cinch. Third up is Book 2 Chapter 3 The Buckskull, with 4 plays and a score of 1. Even if I didn't use the previous boss's weakness, he still wouldn't be too difficult to dispatch of. After all, his boss arena was a plain old boss arena. Most of this stage will take place in Skullman's domain. Oh, how I love using the fully powered atomic fire as a makeshift offensive shield. I will say that each chapter is gradually getting more difficult. The difficulty progression between each chapter is done much better than Book 1. And our first checkpoint, and semi-warped through the terrain, or rather clipped right through it for some reason. Following the chain, the next boss's weakness is probably the hard knuckle, if the previous boss's weakness is anything to go by. A bunch of shielded enemies on different steps. This is where I'm probably supposed to use the hard knuckle. To be fair, the crazy cannon isn't a shielded enemy. The ring boomerang is so handy against almost everything. So that was Chapter 3, the most difficult of the 3 levels I played so far. Yep, it is his weakness. I like Chapter 3 the most out of the 3 chapters, but there are still 2 left to go, so we'll have to see how those improve. Forward up is Book 2, Chapter 4, Ice Spikes and Danger, with 5 plays and a score of -1. so expect to see ice physics and spikes everywhere. Thankfully I have access to the skull barrier. And already we are forced to use it here. I gotta be super careful and make sure that my skull barrier does not despawn on top of these spikes. You know, if there was a telespawner in this room, this would be a lot more hazardous. But as it stands right now, it's not that difficult. As long as you destroy all the tellies beforehand. For an ice level, it's surprisingly not that difficult. In fact, I dare say that this is easier than Chapter 3. The first difficult segment because I need to worry about all these tackle fires. This would have been a lot worse if I didn't have access to the time slow. And this section was half as long as I expected it to be. Not that I'm complaining. I wish all these E&M tanks carried over between all the levels in this series, and other series for that matter. So the fifth and final level of this part is Book 2, the final chapter, To the Moon Base, with 10 plays and a score of 1. The previous stage was okay. I like it more than the 3 chapters preceding it, but it was still okay at best. I wish there were more of those segments where you had to navigate through a gauntlet using the skull barrier to protect you against the spikes. Those were the highlights of that level. Anyways, it's time for us to put a stop to Dr. Wily's latest plan. Well, there's spikes over there. Kind of hard to see, by the way. And yes, these feel like fortress levels, as at several points in these stages you are forced to use special weapons, or at the very least very heavily encouraged. Of course, starting from the previous 2 levels, we were forced to use the skull barrier at several points. I'm gonna go with a time slow and skull barrier combo. Should I go for that? No thanks. These bosses aren't that challenging. This is one of those locations where the Mega Man 4 charge shot is very useful. So close. I wasn't fast enough though. Do I have enough weapon energy left though for doing this? I'm probably gonna have to farm back up, but we'll have to see. Well, I still have enough, so let's try doing it. That wasn't too bad, but you really should put a large weapon energy at the beginning of that section, so players aren't forced to farm up weapon energy for it. The other reason is because farming up the weapon energy for it is inconvenient. There are no easily respawnable mets or tellies there. Could this be it? Could this be the end of the series? It looks to be. We have all 12 special weapons, well technically 9 special weapons plus the Mega Buster plus 2 utilities. So let's face off against the final boss. Wait, is there something up there? This looks rather suspicious. No, just the wall spikes, of course. And our boss is just Springman. No cohorts or anyone else. Kinda disappointing if you were to ask me, for a Final Fortress boss. Fighting in this big arena works more against him than me, because I can easily despawn all of his wild coils. Overall, this felt like a step down in quality compared to the previous stage. It didn't really feel like a good climax to this entire series of chapters. And in total, I say that this book series of levels is okay at best. The best 2 levels were Chapter 3 and Chapter 4, especially because their gimmick usage and forced usage of special weapons in certain sections, but otherwise the rest of the levels are kinda forgettable, as well as the rest of those sections. Nevertheless, you are slowly improving over time, Game Master Man. These series of chapters are still better than the first series of chapters in Book 1. Better difficulty curve, and better usage of enemy mechanics and gimmicks in general. So in the next part, I'll start covering levels that were submitted to the Nature's Wrath Level Design Challenge. Well then, thanks for watching and have a nice day. Toodles!